All right. It is 7 o'clock. I'm calling the January 19th, 2023 Economic Development Commission meeting to order. Roll call starting on my left.
Paulsen.
June Gagnon.
Mary Ann Chinatti.
Adrian Paulsen.
Thank you. Approval of minutes, December 15th. Has everyone had a chance to review them? And if so, do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from December 15th.
As presented?
As presented.
Okay. Adrian, you seconded? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you. Public participation.
Art Gagnon, if I could get an update on 3 grants for the Interroyal, the one from 23 August, 21, 200,000.
That's the one that we're working on now.
Okay. 12 September of 22 for 2 million.
That one we got turned down for because we didn't have, they're concerned that with the work that would be done from that grant, that an owner or an owner's descendant would come out of the woodwork, for lack of a better term, after the work's been done and say, oh, thanks for cleaning up my site, I'll take it now.
Okay.
So we got shot down for that. But we did go to, we did put in a request for court order to demolish certain portions of buildings and whatnot for the purpose of finalizing our necessary testing and remediation and cleanup. And that order got issued by the judge. We had a court date January 9th, and the judge issued the order on January 11th. So we're working with the consultant to figure out what our next steps are to get that going. And also the market study that Chorus and crew were hired to complete as part of the $200,000 grant. That is now in draft form. We're in the process now of reviewing it and providing our comments so that it can be finalized. And then once that's finalized, the next step in that process will be for her to prepare basically a highest and best uses recommendation for the site.
Okay. And then the third one was 28 November 22, and that was the 14,880,000.
That one we didn't get.
We didn't get that either. Okay. Thank you.
Same reason.
You don't know anything about the WPCA?
No, I don't. I'm sorry.
Okay. Thank you.
Reports. In addition to the Interroyal, just a little update on the Shepherd Hill project. Anticipate construction to be completed on the second phase of the sidewalk project, which goes from Shepherd Hill School, elementary school, down to just back from the state property, the state right-of-way to Route 12. That construction should be completed this construction season. We're looking at July, August. Lathrop Road, we are also anticipating completion of that sidewalk project this construction season as well. The state is switching their monitors to camera mounted on the poles, and so they're not expecting the cameras to come in until the springtime. So that summer construction is contingent on them getting and mounting their equipment before we can go in and do what we need to do. But it's expected that it will happen this construction season and be done. And Down Road Bridge, we are working with the consulting engineer. We had a meeting yesterday. That project we're looking to get going, and they're preparing their documents for finalization of their end of the project, and they will get that to the first selectman hopefully by Monday at the latest. Anticipated tomorrow, but hopefully Monday. then once he reviews that and it gets fully executed, they will be preparing the invitation to bid and putting the project out. And it will be full closure, and as part of which it saves an exorbitant amount of money. Because that way, basically if it was one lane open, one lane closed, you'd basically have to be building a bridge that's twice as wide. So this is going to save an awful lot of time and an awful lot of money. And that's pretty much it. Oh, I started working on the April 20th job fair today. So I started preliminaries to get things going, to get the solicitations out to businesses. And it will be April 20th, which is a Thursday, from 3 to 7. Other than that, I have no reports. Okay. Moving on to old business, I would like to ask if members would, someone would make a motion to modify the agenda to hear the ARPA business grant program before we dig into the plan update.
I will make such a motion.
I'll second that.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Jordan?
All right, so I'm going to do it from here so I can access the files. If you guys have questions, but first off, basically the point of today.
Jordan,
Yeah.
could you speak up so Katie can get it on the recorder?
Yeah. So we ended up receiving 21 applications through the ARPA Small Business Economic Recovery Grant Program. Of those 21 applications, we only received 5 hours before the deadline. So it ended up being a lot of work between then and now to pull everything together. And we just didn't want to delay it because this board meets only once a month. So basically, to sum up some of the larger numbers, the applications presented about $898,814 of demonstrated loss. And kind of going back to the application, demonstrated loss can be a variety of things. When you look at the demonstrated loss column, you'll see that it can be reduction in billing, having to pay overtime, purchasing PPE, decrease in net gross income, things like that. Today, I'll be requesting that this board recommend for approval by the Board of Selectmen on Monday the approval of $246,100 for grant funding. You might remember this program currently only has $250,000 of funding, but I've already spoken with Kevin, and they may be able, on Monday the board is going to discuss potentially rolling in the $100,000 from what was going to be the housing loan program, which was from about a year and a half ago. It would have been duplication of services. And then if they do, which I'm hopeful that they will, then we can explore some of the other applications, which currently I'm requesting are tabled for a couple different reasons. The two main is either they didn't provide justification of proof of loss, which is required. You can't give out grants if they don't do that, and that's not one of the things that I would say would fall under a contingency, especially being so close to that $250,000 mark, or they did not provide an estimate of what they actually needed. So they could have, even if they showed that they had over $25,000 worth of loss, what they're asking for the money for is only $10,000. We're trying to be efficient and disperse the money as much as possible. So we don't want to give $25,000 to someone who only needs 10. Those are the only two reasons I would recommend tabling. And then the applications, 4 of them I am requesting that you recommend denial because they were either incomplete applications, beyond what could be pulled together.
Are those included in this, in these?
Yep, yeah. So in the summary forms, no, just because, so, like I said, it was a lot of applications all at once, so Abe and I, which I met with Abe and I really appreciate her coming out to go through each and every one. We met last Thursday, and it proved to be more work than could be done in order to get this out to you on Thursday. So then we met again on Tuesday, and I focused primarily on what we recommended for approval. In terms of, I mean, the applications, so for example, we'll go through each of the denial ones first. Flourish by Chrissy, there's no evidence that their business exists. They can provide any of the attachments.
If that's deemed not eligible, why do we need to recommend denial if it's already not eligible?
I guess just formality, just to recognize each application. But you don't have to, if you don't feel that's necessary. We can just let it continue after. I just figured just to keep it clean cut. But yeah, I guess Mike's Cuts, we can't really look at their application because they aren't located in town, and their mailing address was in New York, and they did not indicate that they were a startup. They also didn't have any of the attachments. Quality, and then Doghouse Bakery, they weren't eligible either. Kind of the same thing, unresponsive, and their application was incomplete. And yeah, they're missing certain requirements, especially because they wanted to do construction on a business, on a building that they're not currently located, they didn't have permission. But I guess I'm open to however you guys want to review this. We can go one by one.
Okay, you said there were 4 you wanted us to recommend denial. This is only 3, Flourish by Chrissy, Mike's Cuts, and Dogs on Bakery.
Okay, yeah, that was a list. Yeah, there's only
Just the 3?
Yeah, just 3. So, do we want to go over?
I'm sorry, this is not something.
Flourish by Chrissy and Mike's Cuts and Doghouse Bakery. Now, the first 2 pages,
Yep.
the other applications that are in white,
Yep.
is that because we're waiting for documentation or something, or?
Yep. Yeah, so if it's under request and it's table, that's because we're either waiting on estimates so we know how much they actually need, or we're waiting on proof of demonstrated loss, so that could be financial statements or just any sort of follow-up information, some sort of backup. We can't really take anyone just right at their word.
Okay. I don't know if other members have had a chance to review these. I've looked through them, and the only questions I have, the Ramsfield, they were looking for, or they were requesting funding on, let me see if I can find them, Ramsfield. Between $15,000 and $25,000 at the board's discretion. So when we act on this one, it would be prudent, in my opinion, if we make a monetary recommendation.
Which with that one specifically, I personally would recommend 25,000 because they need the equipment, but then they also need the repairs to the roof, which that will only even cover half of the roof. They've experienced significant loss with decrease. They haven't been able to fundraise in a couple of years, so I should have specified that on the document, but and I think Ava was in agreement.
I see it in here.
And another concern I had was for La Cantina. They're looking to purchase new furniture, table and chairs, and a tent for the restaurant for outdoor dining. I would, if the commission votes to recommend the Board of Selectmen approve this application, I would strongly urge you to include in that recommendation that the money would be released upon La Cantina's obtaining municipal approvals. They have to go through the Planning and Zoning Commission for site plan approval before they can do this. So I would strongly urge that as part of the recommendation.
Is this, for clarification, is this because it's possible that if the money is given to them and they don't get approval, they just have the money, but not to the items that they're saying it's for?
Yeah.
Okay.
Which is the next one. So, to just add a couple of things. So, if you recommend it to the Board of Selectmen, and then the Board of Selectmen approves, then I'm going to be drafting up grant contracts. And as part of that, there are going to be contingencies for the release of money. For example, no matter what they have to follow, all state and town requirements for planning and zoning. And I'm going to follow up personally with your department to make sure that they do that. And then additionally, actually, that reminded me that in addition, we're going to send any of the contracts and get final approval by the town attorney, just to make sure nothing is overlooked. And then also I spoke with the town auditor, just because a lot of the applicants have trouble getting quotes from contractors. So that raised the question of whether or not they would have to follow the town's procurement policy. And because it's a grant program that's being released to them, they don't have to follow the procurement policy, so they don't have to get the 3 bids or the competitive bid. However, we just have to ensure that they're spending money on what they're supposed to. So it's going to be over a year of follow-up that I'm going to make sure to follow up. There's going to be, they're going to send in updates, I'll provide updates to this board. It's not just going to give them the money and then that's it.
So, to make sure that I understand the disposition of the funds, it's not a reimbursement grant where they get the money at the end of the project after they pay for it and then submit their reimbursement request, right?
Correct.
Could it be, as the work goes on, the invoices get submitted to the town to process?
Right, that's how we do it, especially with the construction projects, because we don't want to run into an incident where someone starts a project and then they don't do it and then someone else starts it, it's going to end up being more expensive. So there's going to be a lot of oversight with that.
Okay, so to clarify, the dispersal will come upon receipt of invoice?
Sure, yeah, we can make that. So that was something that we were going to work out, but that's exactly what we're meeting to figure that out. So,
No.
yeah, all of this will be mentioned to the board on Monday as well. I'll make sure that.
Paul, you have a question?
Well, for didn't they have something out there before?
Yeah, but that was
Temporary?
for the temporary for the culvert. And now, since the legislature has eliminated the expiration date, it doesn't sunset, they're required to go through the municipal regulatory process, which in this case is site plan approval, before they can get their zoning permit. And the only other one I had a concern with is Tap Truck New England. That is a business that Jordan informed me has been ongoing since 2018. It is operated out of 42 School Street in Central Village, which is a residential property in a residential zone, and no home occupation permit has been issued for that.
So that one, we recommend contingent on obtaining the home
Occupation permit.
And I know I spoke with Kevin today too, and he was saying he wants me to invite anyone that's recommended tonight to the Board of Selectmen's meeting. meeting, in case any of the board members want to ask them questions. I did it tonight just because time constraints, and also I wanted it to be able to have the conversation about these different things. I thought that they had submitted a decent enough amount of information. But if the board is interested in having, if more funding is brought in, would this board be interested in having applicants come for this next group? Or are you happy with how this is going?
Ava, you're good with these, right?
Yes, I am.
You know, I mean, Ava's got a lot of experience, in my opinion only, Ava's got a lot of experience in this realm, and I'm comfortable, at least right now, I'm comfortable relying on her expertise.
Can I ask about Bubbles? They want to purchase additional laundry equipment. Was that because of hardship with COVID?
So they were, I don't want to cut you off.
No.
Okay. With Bubbles, their application, they had a very, they did a good job showing how much loss they had. And if you're interested in seeing it, they had loss, and they described it being increased wages. They did have to close a few times, either early or for the day because of staffing issues, so they based it on lost revenue. But even just increased expenses and decreased revenue. Like that. I think it's interesting to see.
Well, that's okay. I mean, if you looked it over, we know.
Yeah, for
They
now,
met the criteria. I was just curious because it wasn't a common sense thing. I didn't think it would change, but that's why I asked. I didn't think COVID would have changed.
Yeah, he's working on getting quotes for how much that would cost, because it may be less or equal to $25,000. I'm not sure right now.
That's another question. They're all 25,000.
So they all qualified, and they were able to basically ask for, they were able to show that they could use it to improve their business.
But that was the maximum.
That was the maximum, yeah.
And except for the American Legion.
American Legion
Only 10.
and on the spot because they had requested for wages, part of the $25,000, which is not an eligible expense. So with the use of type, they just rather than give them, we didn't have the time to give them to figure out the different ways. I don't think technically I have the money. Region, they only needed 10,000 for the actual wire.
Question about taking $100,000 from the housing loan program. Are you talking about from the small cities?
No, definitely not. I'm talking about, if you remember about a year and a half ago, when this program started as a loan program, there was the company housing hardship loan program that we realized it was just a duplication of service with the small cities. So I have not done anything with that. This quarter trying to add to the grant program, just because again there is other programs. So and there's a need obviously for businesses. Kevin and I talked. It seems like it might be a good idea to roll that into this program because of the other applicants that I think will provide the updated information because they have communicated with me. That'll be, I think it ends up being almost exactly, it's like 95,000. Because some of them I've contacted, I haven't heard back. For example, these, I haven't received any updates with the required information. And then quality homemakers, I haven't received any, so that's 50,000 knocked off there. And then Ava and I agreed that, so the Wilk Home Zoo House, the very last one, that's the same owner as Cat Truck. That's the only startup that we had received. So I didn't include to separate, just to save time.
Where's the 95,000 for the housing program, you said, for that grant, the other
I'm
grant?
sorry, what was that?
Where's the money for the other grant that you're looking to roll into? Where is that money?
That's ARPA funding. Yeah, so it was a previous ARPA program we were going to do, that just didn't shape up. Just wasn't good on us.
So there are no unknown contingencies or constraints that would prevent the town from being able to do that, to roll it in?
The board would just have to vote to authorize.
You don't need to get permission from higher-ups, state or the federal government?
That's what I was thinking.
As far as I know, that will confirm that with Kelly, and we'll discuss it more on Monday too, but as far as I know, there's no federal approval. If anything, the most complicated thing would be, I guess, updating the ARPA resolution, which again is just a board of selectmen vote.
So it just seems funny that if they allocated money for a specific purpose, in this case for a housing rehab loan program, that you wouldn't need their approval to take that money in from a housing rehab loan to a business grant.
So the board of selectmen has the authority to designate this money for any purposes. The board of selectmen had designated the funding for that purpose, so it's their authority to then move it, especially since the program's not. It would be a duplication of service.
You guys check with the town attorney?
Oh yeah, we'll check with Kelly, the auditor, anyone we have to, just to make sure.
So now, how would you like these to be handled? Do you want us to reference each individual business and amount in the recommendations? Or do you want a recommendation, not putting words in anybody's mouth, but just to make things easy? Let's say we want to approve the majority of these minus the 3.
The 3
Do you want
plus
a
the
bulk?
table.
A bulk reference?
Sure, yeah, we can do first approval if you want, and then table. And I guess you don't have to deny it right now. That was just a recommendation, you don't have to take my request, you could just keep it all the same, so you could do, someone can motion to approve, or a motion to recommend American Legion, Enchanted, and so on, and then to table the rest,
Okay.
if that's not going to motion.
So when we motion to table it, what's going to happen? You guys are going to take more time to review the applications?
Correct, yes.
Come back to us.
As additional information comes in.
Now, we don't really need to table anything, because if we don't give a recommendation to approve or deny, that means it is still out there.
Sorry, say that again.
Do we really need to table?
Well, this board is responsible for, or has taken on the task of recommending, like reviewing the applications and recommending it to the board of selectmen. So I would assume you'd want to see the next applications, but I didn't provide all of the information. But if you want to recommend them.
Right, but my point is that tonight, I just want to make sure that I understand this. You're looking for us to make a recommendation. Let's just take the American Legion because it's on the top. Recommend the Board of Selectmen approve American Legion's application in the amount of $10,000.
Oh, you're saying you don't need that to mention tabling?
Yeah.
No, you don't have to. Yeah, that's fine.
Follow-up question on the table. So is there, you guys are just, it's kind of, you're going to figure out when you're going to come back, or is there a defined time when you're going to come back?
I mean, ideally, they get the information to me in the next month, and then if you use that extra $100,000, then I would be coming back next month, and then you would recommend that remaining amount or whatever. And at this point, it is first come, first serve. So if we reach the $100,000 mark, and certain people haven't turned in information, then we're not going to hold up any longer.
Oh, I have a bonus question. This is probably minor, but I guess is there any administrative or legal recourse for individuals or the town, like the Board of Selectmen ultimately rejects the application? Can they Is it, that's it? Can you do anything about that?
If they're denied.
Yeah, if they're denied, and I don't think it's appropriate denial.
No, because they're falling down, not really, because it's competitive, and in the policy, it states that the board of selectmen reserves the right to approve, deny, or table any application for any purpose.
Just want to make sure I was like, come back in case it was incorrect.
Okay, so what is your pleasure?
Do you want to start going forward? Each one? Recommend?
Okay,
You need, so each one you need
Well-
a vote, or you want to do it?
Do it more.
yeah, but I think it would be a good idea, we can do it bulk, but I think it would be a good idea in that bulk to list each individual
Yeah,
application.
Do you want to do one this start, or you want to?
I don't care if you want to do it, that's fine.
All right, I'll make a motion that we recommend approval by the Board of Selectmen to approve the application of American Legion ambulance in the amount of $10,000. I also make a recommendation that we recommend to the Board of Selectmen to approve the application for enchanted jewelry in the amount of $25,000. Also recommend the Board of Selectmen approve the application of paper in the amount of $25,000. Also recommend to the Board of Selectmen to approve the application of Fort Lodge in the amount of $25,000. Also recommend to the Board of Selectmen to approve the application of Lot Arena in the amount of $25,000.
Contingent on receiving necessary municipal approvals?
If you want to add that, sure.
Absolutely.
Sure. Also, we ask the Board of Selectmen, recommend the Board of Selectmen approve the application of Maurice Fitness in the amount of $15,700. Also recommend approval of the application by the Board of Selectmen for the application of Matthews Catering in the amount of $25,000. Also recommend the Board of Selectmen approve the application of On the Spot Catering in the amount of $20,400. We also recommend the approval of the application by the Board of Selectmen for this Plainfield Business Association in the amount of $25,000. Also recommend the Board of Selectmen approve the application of the Rams Field, they were called Rams Field.
Yeah. Or
Plainfield
Rams
Rams
Field / Plainfield Youth Football Association.
Yeah, $25,000. We also recommend the application, the Board of Selectmen approve the application of Tap Truck New England, the amount of $25,000, subject to their approving that, or filing the home occupation.
Subject to receiving a home occupation permit.
And on the spot catering was contingent on approval of financial statements.
Oh, yeah, with them, so they produce enough to demonstrate their loss. However, just to keep things consistent for our reporting, they need to turn in their 2018 to fully justify. But they justified the full 25,000, this is just bookkeeping.
So did you want to add that to your
Yes.
motion, Paul?
Subject to them producing the 2018 values.
I'll second the motion by Paul.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries, thank you. Do we have a motion regarding Flourish by Chrissy, Mike's Cups, and Doghouse Bakery?
To deny them, I'll make that motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries, thank you. Okay.
Thank you, Ava, I really appreciate it. That was very helpful.
I have to say that it's very thorough, and we got, actually, sometimes felt like I was questioning you like a real underwriter, and he's going to be right on top of this, and we will come very soon, so I think.
Thank you. Thank you, Jordan.
Thank you.
Okay, Moving on to Economic Development Plan update. Adrian was kind enough to prepare a PowerPoint presentation, 13 pages or so, and he will go through that regarding his status report, which is the larger document that I provided PDF of. So, Adrian, do you want to
Yes.
get the ball rolling?
Yeah, so I'm assuming I have to stand up there because the clicker
Yeah.
doesn't work. I guess let me know if I need to speak up for anybody.
You will need to speak up because he is recording.
Excellent. Yes. Okay, as everybody here, I'm going to do my best to talk this way, but I'm going to have to try and look over your application. Okay. Can you see that? As Mary Ann mentioned, this PowerPoint is a kind of truncated summary of the fuller PDF. The main difference between the two is that the PDF has a breakdown of all the specific details that are represented here for each action item. That was in the 2020 action item plan, or the action plan. So I would refer you to that. And at the end, if anybody has questions about a particular action item or any details and they want to see that, I will pull up the PDF document at the end of the presentation. Okay?
Thank you, Jordan.
Thanks. Okay, so these are some opening notes. I guess I'll summarize them relatively quickly rather than go through all of them, but that's to kind of explain the graphs and tables that are in the PowerPoint as well as the PDF. So the economic impact score is anybody familiar with a Likert scale? A Likert scale is mathematically, it's essentially an imaginary range of value that you create between 1 and anything you want, or 0, to assign a range of valuation. So in this case, it's a valuation of likely economic impact. I did it 1 through 10. I created that so we can prioritize each of the action items for our new revised plan. So going forward, we can prioritize and kind of figure out going forward, well, this one's lower priority because of its likely impact. And if you have questions, we can get to that at the end. It is an estimation. In the future, it'll be based on more gathering economic data, so it will still be a Likert scale, but it'll be connected to actual analysis of the economic trends in Plainfield and the curve gathering of data. So in the future, it will be more accurate. So it is an estimation of the likely impact if that action item is executed within the given year of the report. The impact value is a composite score, so it's based on the economic impact score, but it takes into account how many of the goals map onto a given action item. So it represents a bit more of how that particular action item aligns with the goals for the entire year of the plan. Some of these map onto more than 1, some only map onto 2, some map onto 3. So this represents a bit more completely the total effect of that action item. And that is the ultimate value that I use for the ranking. That is in the second table, the second status table matrix. The priority level ranking assigned to each action item is the composite score based on 3 factors. That's a typo. I apologize for that. Originally, there was going to be a percentage in here, but we discussed removing that, so I've removed that factor because not all the action items are able to be completed in every small. So it's a composite score of the impact value discussed above, the level of effort in hours. That is again an estimation, but this is not a Likert scale. This is an estimation of how many hours it will take on the part of whoever's doing it, whether it's Jordan or volunteers, over the course of the action item to be complete. So that way we can kind of get a sense of how much work it takes to do. So that way we have a matrix, and I'll be coming up to that very shortly, that shows on the one side, in terms of evaluation, the value of the impact, and then on the other hand, how many hours, so we can determine based on max impact, or ideally max impact, and ideally minimal or medium range of effort to achieve the goal, so we can prioritize based on that. So that's how I assign the ranking of priorities. The first status matrix provided on slide 4 that I'll be showing you momentarily represents the original order of the action items in the 2020 Economic Development Commission Action Plan and consists of 20 action items, including a new action item that has been proposed by Chinatti. The second status matrix is essentially the same information, but minus 2 of the action items from the 2020 action plan due to recommendations or discussions had between Mary and myself, but this is going to be presented to the board to discuss, which is why they're both there, so we can decide whether or not to keep them or to remove them from the next version of the action plan. The second status matrix contains 18 of the action items as a consequence, and that is essentially the recommended, I'm putting that loosely, it's the recommended action plan, essentially, and then we can decide whether to keep that or add it or change it or move around the priority ranking, so we can figure out which ones we want to tackle first, and, who wants to be in charge of what essentially is a lead for each action item for the next year. Make sure I'm not missing anything. So those action items are number 7 and number 18. I also numbered each of the original action items, so we can refer to them by number if you want to, instead of by saying out the entire, the summary of the action. And that's also the purpose of the status matrices, so you can just look at which number you want really quickly and reference the number if you want to do that when you're talking about it. Yeah, so without further ado, there we go. So this is the action item status and level of effort. So there's a pivot table on top which shows you basically the number of action items and that fall under a particular category of status. So for example, 2 of the action items are marked as blocked. Something is impeding them from going forward. There's a constraint of some kind. We need to address that constraint. One of them is completed, and that is in turn recommended to be removed because the action item is no longer relevant. We'll get to that shortly when we get to the table. 4 in an ongoing status, which means nothing is blocking them, they're continuing, and they would be essentially marked at 100% complete for the year, but we remove the percentage, so we're just going to mark it with the status. Proposed 1, that's the one we're going to get to in a few minutes, and then there's 1 that is to be merged, so essentially we identified in our analysis that one of the action items doesn't really need to be in the plan because it maps onto another action item. We'll get to that as well. So grand total 20, and the sum of the level of effort in hours is 615 hours. That's an estimation, and obviously we can keep track of that over the year loosely so we can have more accurate estimations in the future, so we can be more accurate and figure out how much time it's going to take us to do something and how many resources are required going forward. Are there any questions on this before we move forward? I can take this one. Okay. It's not as visible as I would like it to be, but I will have to work with that. Yeah, I can see it. It's not very good. I'm going to walk up to the screen. So up here you've got number 14, which is that's to develop buy-in from the community and elected officials for this plan. And ultimately, I think I ranked that first. Let me check my. Oh yeah. Yeah, I did rank that number 1. That's on slide number 7. But I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves, so just give you an example. So this one up here is ranked at a number 10. Can't really see that, unfortunately. And as far as its impact, that's as high as you can get. And then in the middle here, it's estimated at 40 hours to complete it. So because it's right here in the middle, essentially the apex of the impact that it can have on the community in terms of economic impact, and it's about in the middle, the amount of hours it's going to take to accomplish it, and there's nothing blocking it from going forward. I rank it as number one. So I'm not going to walk through all of those for all of you, but you can ask questions of me if you have questions about each one of these. This table right here provides the values, the level of effort required in terms of the hours, and then also the economic or the impact value for each one of them. So some of them are overlapping. There's a total of 3 that have the same value, so they share the same dot in this grid. So in order to distinguish them, that's why you also look at the status and any other constraints that might be impacting them to further move them about in the priority rankings, because you can only have, obviously it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 through 18. Can't have sharing priority ranks. So moving on from there, do you have any questions about this before I move on? I'm just explaining how that works. Actually, one real quick thing. So essentially, you would draw a circle around this, and then you start from the top, work your way from here over, because this one right here has 2, this can further explain, and has only about 10 hours of work associated with completing it for the year. This one right here, 20, this one, 30. So increase of hours means they're all sharing the same impact on this line here, but they're requiring more work. So reduction in priority as you move this way, same as you go down. So that's the logic. Okay. All right. Do you have any questions about that before we move on? Okay. Okay, so these are the goals that were articulated. Well, the top 4 were the goals that are articulated in the Economic Development Commission Action Plan. And they are increase new development and business expansions, 2, engage existing businesses to ensure retention and encourage expansion within Plainfield, 3, plan and prioritize municipal investments to support economic development and develop community buy-in for this plan, 4, grow tourism opportunities within Plainfield. I'm proposing 2, they're proposed, so I'm going to read them out and hopefully we'll discuss them. 1 is to measure and promote strong connections between economic development and high quality of life in the community and among its residents, so that we have a stronger connection between the existence of businesses rising in the town and how that actually affects residents. I'm happy to take the lead on that, and I have training in measuring and tracking quality of life, so I would be content doing the bulk of the work on that. That is not represented in the action plan because it's not an action item yet. It would be a subtask, so that we could actually basically connect any of the things that are going on in town to measure them to quality of life. And then the 6th one, measure and promote strong connections between economic development and high flourishing. Flourishing is similar to quality of life, but flourishing is, I guess, in psychology, it corresponds to well-being, whereas quality of life is how you're feeling from a day-to-day basis. Flourishing is, are you achieving your goals in life? Are you able to get the right job you want? Are your children going to the best school possible? Are you hitting all your goals in life? That's flourishing, which is different from quality of life, which is, quality of air, can you go to the park, that sort of thing. So I marked success guideline. Rule for all 6 of these is TBD. The next column over, I put business analysis comments because I am a business analysis analyst, so those are my comments. I commented on pretty much the top 4, that there's not really any way to measure these currently. We don't have a way to define our success in achieving these goals. We don't know if we're hitting them or not. We can just say, oh, 2 businesses are in town from last year, we hit our goal, great. But I don't think that's satisfactory for us to show that we're actually moving the ball as a commission to advance the economic development of this town. So it would be awesome if the commission were to define in some kind of way how we want to track these sorts of things. It could be relatively simple, or it could be complicated, preferably simple. So subtasks of action items, these came about based on discussions with Mary Ann, and as I was analyzing these, so these are specified. So these will appear in multiple places because they're basically subtasks that are necessary to be completed in order to further a number of action items in the action plan. So the subtasks of the action plans, first one is follow up with Jordan Lumpkin regarding the most current version of the commercial real estate inventory. That's proposed. We would have to determine who's going to do that, but that is a pretty easy task. Just maintain contact with Jordan and make sure it's in a good state. Determine what kinds of businesses the town of Plainfield wants to bring to town. We need to figure that out and have a discussion about how we go about doing possibly a survey or workshops or those sorts of things. Number 3, create and maintain a Plainfield Economic Development Commission Facebook page. I would volunteer myself to be a lead, but if anybody else so desires to take a lead on creating a Plainfield Economic Development Commission page on Facebook to promote the activities of the commission in collaboration and coordination with other commissions and of course the Board of Selectmen. That would be very useful for a number of reasons that will be specified further on in this report. Number 4 would be to conduct workshops to gather and then analyze information regarding available and required resources for current and future businesses to succeed in Plainfield. Again, proposed, and we do not have a lead identified for that. This is a proposed status, so we have to discuss that if we want to do it. Okay, moving on. Number 6, status matrix. So again, this contains essentially the same information except 2 extra action items which I'm recommending in collaboration with Marianne to remove, so we can discuss them momentarily. So the first action item is inventory commercial real estate. I estimated that would have an impact value of 8 with a level of effort of 1. And the status is ongoing, which means there's nothing really impeding that from happening. This action item is now on an annual update review status and is no longer an active goal that we need to put a lot of effort into, but we should keep track of it. And this is based on chair comment, means conversation with Marianne when we met together several times to analyze where we were at.
Just a note on that one, Adrian, it's not on an annual update, it's on a regular update.
Oh, thank you. Typo. I apologize. Number 2, prepare data package to promote business recruitment. I estimated that to have an impact value of 9, with a level of effort about 40 hours approximately, and that doesn't have to be necessarily members of the EDC. That could be Jordan Lumpkin or other members of the town employees who might be participating in that action. We have this as blocked, and next step is to be determined. Priority level is number 5, so it is high up in priority, but there's some constraints on that. We have to hold off on this until we know what business Plainfield wants to bring to town. Yeah. Number 3, promote large developable parcels. Again, impact value of 9. Level of effort is lower, it's 20 hours, I'm estimating. And that's pending, which means that we're waiting, but there's not really any blockers. So that's number 2 as far as the priority level. So that should probably, I'm recommending we give it a lot of attention and try to get that ball rolling. But the comment here is put on pause until we have determined which kinds of businesses should be encouraged to be developed in Plainfield. So again, reference to that task. Number 4, action item, host a familiarization tour. That could have a very large impact potentially, so I rated that as a 9 if it was done well and was well attended by businesses or potential businesses in town. And the status there is pending. There's not really necessarily a constraint, but we've ranked this as lowest priority. I put it in a little bit above the lowest because of the way I've described how ranking in priority, because the initiative will cost money. I have a comment on that, we will get to that. There's a table where I have some comments on some of these. So number 5, engage with the Eastern Connecticut Brownfield Land Bank. Impact value is estimated at 9. Level of effort, that could just be 1 hour a month to just check in with them and send an email. So I rated that at 12 hours for the entire year because it doesn't require that much labor theoretically to just maintain contact with them. I do have a comment on that. We'll get to that when we get to the slide of comments. Number 6, monitor DECD Office of Brownfield Redevelopment for funding announcements. That has an impact value of 9. Level of effort is 12. Again, 1 hour a month just to check in, probably even less than that. I just put it at 12 as an estimate. That's ongoing. Grant application for the Interworld site has been submitted. So that's why it's lower priority, because we're in a good state with it. It doesn't really necessarily be high on the radar for our attention or efforts. Number 7, support businesses affected by COVID-19. The impact value is 8, and the level of effort is marked as 0 here because it's been completed. As far as the active role that the Economic Development Commission needs to play, because COVID-19, as far as an official pandemic, is no longer in play, unfortunately. So the comment here is, and the recommendation is to remove the action item from the action plan. Number 8, participate in ongoing business visitations. Impact value I estimated at a 7, pretty high up there, but it's kind of hard to know how much impact that has. We unfortunately lost data that we had been gathering in the past due to the data hack. So I just estimated at 7. 24 hours, 2 hours a month to check in with businesses. We do not have a lead on that, FYI, so that will be hopefully something we can discuss. And the next one, engage with economic development partner organizations and connect them to local businesses. I rated that as an 8, pretty high up there. That could have a big impact on bringing businesses to Plainfield and helping Plainfield businesses that exist to succeed. And that is pending. Next steps are to be determined by the board here. The first part of this action item can be merged with number 8 though, which is right above. So those two can theoretically be merged together to save some time and consideration. Number 10, engage remote workers. I rated this as a number 3 due to in part the difficulty of engaging remote workers and identifying remote workers as such, but also it's not necessarily going to result in an increase in economic activity in terms of businesses paying taxes because they're remote workers, so they may or may not even be, their employer may not be in town. And the level of effort would be quite high to ascertain who are the remote workers, so I put that, and maybe that's an estimation, it could be more, it could be less. Hence, that one is much lower priority than number 18 is the last one. So, yeah, the next one. Any questions before we go on? Okay, this is continued. So the 11th of the action items in the original sequence is to engage home-based businesses. I rated this a little bit higher because they're home-based businesses. They're here in town, and they may be from home, but maybe they may not want to stay as a home-based business. Maybe they'll want to expand to a brick-and-mortar business. So I put that a little bit higher, and the level of effort is quite a bit lower. I put it at 12. That might be a little low now that I'm looking at it, but that was the usually people who are going to do interviews to discuss with them what they're looking for in the town. 13, create plan prioritizing investment in municipal projects. Again, I rated that pretty high because of the impact of that. If there's a solid plan driving investments, that can create a lot of economic growth in the town. But that would require a lot of effort. I estimated at 60. That's an estimate. I'm not super confident that could be more, to be honest, to create a good plan with all the required stakeholders to create a good plan and then get people to buy into it. So the comment here is deprioritize crafting a prioritized plan until the EDC is determined, again, which kinds of businesses the EDC wants. So Number 14, develop buy-in from the community and elected officials for this plan. I rated that at a 10 because that impacts everything else. If you get buy-in for this whole plan, that'll drive everything else as far as all the action items. If we don't have buy-in, if we don't have members of the Board of Selectmen, or we don't have members of the other commissions, or members of the community, aware of or working to the degree that is appropriate in tandem with these action items, they're not going to get a lot of traction necessarily. So that's why I rated it so high. 40 hours might be an underestimate, but it really depends on how we identify how we want to develop buy-in in the community and from elected officials for the plan. So I rated that as number 1 in priority as discussed. Number 15, connect the East Coast Greenway Trail, the rivers and villages, rated that as 8. Primarily due to the fact that that can drive tourism. It can drive people coming into town essentially throughout the year to stop and stay or to live here if it's maintained well enough. People do move to places because of the quality of the green spaces in that region. 16, promote engagement and activity around the rivers. Again, that's an 8. I put that at a 40, a little bit higher for the hourly estimation of effort, because that's going to require going around and talking to local businesses and or residents, and maybe creating marketing or working with the Economic Development Department to facilitate that. And I rated that as 9 for priority. Number 17, connect tourism-related businesses to key statewide and regional resources. Rated that at 7, and about 40 hours again. 18, capitalize on Plainfield's many village centers as a promotional opportunity. Put that as, again, a 10, but that's going to get merged with action item 12 up above, engage community members from each area and village. That would be because they kind of overlap pretty strongly. Number 19, support farmers in growing agritourism opportunities, and that's an impact value of 9, level of effort of 30. We have that marked as blocked. We need to coordinate with Jenny from the Agricultural Commission to figure out how she got the wine trail going.
That's a state thing, the state coordinating the wine trail.
And then 21, completed, promote the Moosa Valley State Park Trail, and that is the proposed action item that Mary Ann is proposing. Okay. I'm going to skip the next 2 slides because they're the same items. It's just ordered by priority, but that's what that is there for. And in the PDF, the items are organized by priority. The first 2 are the ones that are recommended to be essentially removed. So skip that. Okay. So comments, I'm just going to focus on the ones that I have comments on. So inventory, commercial, or real estate, status is ongoing. We don't really need to read that top comment. So number 3, having a standalone Facebook page, kind of already discussed that, so I'm going to leave that comment alone. Number 4, hosting a familiarization tour. Give me 1 second. Just trying to hear it's a lot easier to read. There's a sheet here that I've done that, unfortunately. So my comment is, will this effort be a one-off or a recurring effort as far as hosting a familiarization tour? Will there be an outreach and coordination plan? Since this action will require funds to execute, can the EDC consider submitting to the First Selectman a request for funds to facilitate this project as per section 5.1 of the EDC bylaws? So number 5, engaging with the Eastern Connecticut Brownfield Land Bank. There's no forward movement as of right now, but can the Economic Development Commission work with the Eastern Connecticut Land Bank and the Board of Selectmen to determine some easier steps that we can take to engage with and solicit support from the Eastern Connecticut Land Bank? Number 6, monitor the DC Office of Brownfield Development for funding announcements. Does the Economic Development Commission have a working list of sites and property owners to follow up with based on applicable DECD Office of Brownfield Redevelopment's funding announcements to kind of match that other effort we discussed? Number 8, participate in ongoing business visitations. Can the EDC keep track of the information gained during interviews and discussions with businesses to provide better metrics, to identify trends in groups of business stakeholder classes, and conduct related analysis? Furthermore, can the EDC discuss with town technical staff an appropriate place to store such data going forward, since the previous data was lost? Number 9, engage with economic development partner organizations and connect them to local businesses. Can the Economic Development Commission conduct workshops to gather and then analyze information regarding available and required resources? Is there an internship program available to Plainfield High School students and individuals of working age residing in Plainfield? If not, the Economic Development Commission could initiate such an internship program with other local businesses or work with the other commissions or the Board of Selectmen or the Board of Education to do such a thing. 10, engage remote workers. Does the EDC have a survey prepared to facilitate this process? I'm assuming we don't, but maybe we have a line about, because we don't, then we want to draft that, make that happen. 12, has a community survey or focus group been prepared yet for engaging with community members from each area or village within Plainfield to determine their priority projects for funding? What have we been using for drafting and distributing surveys? Village visiting sessions are taped from Plainfield and Moose Up. The other 2 villages have not had visioning sessions, correct me if I'm wrong there. But also they were taped, but were they transcribed and analyzed, and more patterns looked for so we can figure out what to focus on? So that's another question. We don't have to answer all these all at once, that's why it's never a document. We can easily come back to this.
I like the idea of the scholarship fund, if we can come up with something for our students,
Yeah.
like the agriculture.
Absolutely. I know the Agriculture Commission has a scholarship.
Yes, they do.
So maybe someone match that.
ADC maybe.
Right, yeah, absolutely. Number 14, sorry, I got a little disoriented there. 13, create a plan prioritizing investment in municipal projects. If created, has this plan been referenced against the plan of conservation and development? I'm assuming that plan has not been created, but if it was created, then was it referenced against the plan of conservation and development published in 2018? 14, develop buy-in from the community and elected officials for this plan. This is dependent on completing a draft of the plan with EDC member contributions and discussion, as well as specific steps laid out for how to get buy-in from the community. So the key part is having some kind of plan to get the buy-in.
And just to remind, EDC has absolutely no authority to prioritize municipal projects.
Yeah, you have a fund.
We can make recommendations,
Yeah.
but we have no authority to prioritize them.
15, connect the East Coast Greenway Trail with the rivers and village centers. Has the Economic Development Commission reached out to the Planning and Zoning Commission, Conservation Commission, and/or the Inlands and Wetlands Commission to gather concerns and ideas from these respective commissions and boards to garner buy-in and get advice on likely restraints or areas of concern for development opportunities? Number 17, connect tourism-related businesses to key statewide and regional resources. This is at a standstill, not clear which businesses are tourists, so I guess I would add, I didn't put it in here, but could try to figure that out so we could make some movement on this by doing some analysis. Especially, we got a Facebook page up and we started looking at the metrics from engagement on the Facebook page. That might be a way to begin that. 18, capitalize on Plainfield's many village centers. 19, support farmers and growing agritourism opportunities. As noted, that is blocked. My comment was Jenny from the Agricultural Commission may have a list of farmers who may be interested in pursuing agritourism. In addition, the EDC may be able to help identify barriers for farmers to pursuing such opportunities and work with the Agricultural Commission and other stakeholders to help eliminate barriers and identify sources of funding or other supports for pursuing agritourism opportunities. Yeah. Okay. Let's continue. That's good. Okay. Marianne, did you want to walk through these, or did you want me to walk through these?
Through mine?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll speak to mine.
Okay.
Hard copy is also on the table
Yeah.
for members. And this basically, all I did was prepare this document as a starting point, because obviously we haven't updated the plan since it was created in 2020, so it is rather out of date. And I did ask members to go through it and review and bring suggestions to the commission, what they wanted to, what they think might need to be changed, updated, deleted, whatever. This implementation outline that I prepared, basically all I did, I listed each of the goals, I listed each of the action items to accomplish those goals, I included a status column, and who the point person would be. Now, what I was looking for is for members to review these things, and if there's something here that they would like to take on being the point person for, then volunteer that. That way we can start ticking off our required action items. Get started, well, for example, the inventory commercial real estate, that is ongoing, and I did hand that off to Jordan. So that is not a task that would ever be complete because it's ever changing. And the data package, all of this information is available, but it just hasn't been compiled. So if members want to look at this and maybe take it home and digest it and come back and talk next month, think about what they would like to take on, and we can discuss it that way. And then once we get started doing these things, then we can shift information over to Adrian so that he can put it in for his data collection. Thoughts?
I'm good with using this as a baseline for assigning rules. Should I make a motion?
I think that maybe we should take this home and think about it first, and then when members come back to say, yeah, I'll volunteer for this, then we can actually make a decision on something.
Yep.
Okay? Everybody else good with that? All right, so then, if nobody has any other questions, maybe a motion to table to next month would be in order?
The whole action plan, or?
You have a question?
Yeah, so for clarification, so this motion to table, when we reconvene and discuss this agenda, what will be the action items that we will be taking? The assignment will be, are we going to let us?
Well, I want members to look through this document and actually redline it, basically.
Right.
And then come back with red lines next month,
Yeah,
so that we can redo it.
yeah.
So that's what I'm hoping for next month.
I will make a motion to, the Economic Development Commission table the matter of preparing the Economic Development Commission action plan until next month on the conditions that we will be assigning essentially the individuals to be in charge of each of the action items going forward, and that data will be collected going forward in connection with these actions, so we can work on this going forward.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries, thank you. And I'm sorry, I forgot to delete the new minutes, the new meeting dates from the agenda. Correspondence, trade name listing. You all received that via email. I have no other correspondence for the commission. Adrian did offer, which was forwarded to members, section 7.136, which outline of the Connecticut General Statutes outlining EDC charges from the Office of Legislative Research, dated May 8th. 1998, Local Economic Development Commission powers and duties. Basically, this takes the statute and puts it in English. The statute is in lawyer, the OLR document is in English. And
Legalese.
yeah, pretty much, yeah. And also included was Chapter 7 of the Town Charter, which item C speaks to the Economic Development
Could I see
Commission.
the OR? Oh, I mean, it's pertaining to the CGS as well. Specifically, it was the part about the Economic Development Commission's, actually, it's the statute, sorry. It's the statute. The ability of the Economic Development Commissions for each town in Connecticut to be able to request funds. How, I guess, how has that ever worked or been used in this town?
Not since I've been here, and that will be handled during the budget process, and we're already into that for this year.
Yeah, I just wanted to get an understanding of it and have that kind of public discussion.
Yeah, if that's something that the Board of, that the Economic Development Commission wants to pursue going forward, I would suggest maybe discussing it starting in November.
November. Okay. So it can't be laid out in the action plan as something we're looking to, or it can be.
Oh, absolutely you can.
Do we know what other economic development commissions have done with these funds? Because I mean, I looked it up and it's not a small amount of money.
No, it's not.
I just was curious about what the precedent was on that, and what other commissions have done with that funding. Because I mean, it sounds cool to potentially have a lot of money to be at disposal to advance economic development, but what are some models of using that money that other commissions have?
I haven't researched that, but that money would be able to be used for attaining the goals outlined in the plan and doing the action steps.
That was my understanding as well. Just want to clarify that. Okay.
Anything else? Okay, with that, motion to adjourn is in order.
I'll make that motion.
Okay.
I second that motion.
Okay, June moved, Adrian seconded, adjournment at 8:22, 8:19.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, everybody. So homework for next month, go through the action plan, redline it, bring it back, and go through the implementation outline and see which tasks you would be willing to take on.